on this issue, right? So Dr. Keener, on his book of miracles, is a good source material. So all that source material is scholarly stuff that I'm recommending to you. Half of it is against my position, half of it is for my position. Okay? And that's what it's all about. It's all about getting you to think and look at the research and look at the source material to think for yourself. And I would also encourage you to read primary source material. In these debates with atheists, I've noticed that the atheist scholars, most of the time, oh, another thing as well, Ludemann is an atheist scholar. Have a look at Dr. Ludemann. Uh, he's an important scholar that you can look at on the resurrection of Christ. But source material is important. Primary source material. Read ancient source material. Read the Gospels. Read Paul's epistles. Read the ancient literature before the time of Christ, during the time of Christ, after the time of Christ. Read Tacitus. Read Josephus. Read these ancient source materials and discover things yourself. Don't just listen to scholars, okay? And go to the main scholarly sites where they have these primary sources. You can find them all over the place. There's a lot of universities that have good material, okay? So that's just source material for you to study this subject, helping you to really look into things, right? We're not here just to win debates. We're here to educate and help people to think through these issues. Okay, so that's the first part of the video. Second part of the video, we're going to spend 15 minutes now. We're not into 15 minutes, but the next 15 minutes, to be fair to Dan, because he's done his video in 15 minutes, so we'll spend now 15 minutes reflecting on his video. Okay. Okay. Dan Courtney basically says that it's beholden to the Christian to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Jesus rose from the dead. He gives 4 pieces of information here. He says that we have to prove as Christians that Jesus was an actual human being, that Jesus was dead prior to being placed in a tomb, that Jesus was placed in the tomb as described in Scripture, and that number 4, Jesus was physically restored to normal function. Then we have to also give the proof of the God concept, that God exists, that God is sufficient to the resurrection, and God is necessary for the resurrection. Okay. Then he says that he quotes Bart Ehrman, who says that contemporary accounts are the best for historiography. He then goes on to say that these accounts, the accounts of the Mormon of Joseph Smith with the golden plates, is very good history. We get primary source material of these eyewitness accounts, but yet we know it's all bogus. But yet this is early accounts and consistent witnesses, and it's better than the Gospels, and yet we know Joseph Smith's telling us a lie. Okay. Then he goes into contradictions in the Gospel accounts, such as the time of the Passover, the day of the Passover, the time of the death of Christ, who carried the cross, and etc. Then the final argument is that the resurrection didn't happen because Paul didn't teach a resurrection, he taught a spiritual resurrection. So that's basically Dan's argument. I'm just going to rebut it for the next 15 minutes, okay? First of all, he says we have to prove these 4 things about Jesus. Jesus was actually a human being, Jesus was died, placed in the tomb, Jesus died prior to being placed in the tomb, and Jesus was placed in the tomb, and 4, Jesus was physically restored. The first 3 points are already proved by history. If you knew the history of this topic, he'd know that the work by E.P. Sanders, who is the leader in this field, would not agree with the Bible, would not agree with certain things about the Gospels, but has said that basically the basic facts of Jesus, that he was a human being in history, in the first century Jew, that he was that he died, that he was placed in the tomb of Arimathea. He accepts that. Dominic Crossan, who was a skeptic scholar, says that Jesus dying on a cross is the most well attested historical fact in history.